We are back in your life, and today, beep boop, ChatGPT is not your mortgage broker. More and more frequently, we are seeing Chaz come up when it comes to advice conversations. Mike, you had a bit of a doozy the other day where you were like, "All right, Mr. or Mrs. Client, this is what we should do," and they were like, "Nah, computer says otherwise."
Yeah. Can we break that down? I don't know what the beep boop
I'm a
thing
robot.
is.
Beep boop, beep boop.
I just want you to do it again. And also, Chaz is what we call ChatGPT in here. So if we keep calling it Chaz, you probably need to let people know what we're talking about. Does everyone call it Chaz?
I think
it's
so.
just us. I think it's just us.
Common
Everyone
expression.
does? Well, I don't know. I'm not in the internet forums about ChatGPT. We did. So I was speaking to a customer the other day, giving some advice on their fixed rate. Fixed rate's going up. Need to refix. What should I do, Mike? And I was like, yeah, look, I think a 2-year fix sounds about right for you, based on this situation. And they went, yeah, Mike, that's great. However, ChatGPT told me to fix for 6 months. And I was like, I think that's the worst piece of advice I've ever seen.
It is interesting, Like, if you see like a huge spike in 6 month fixes or something. So I assume once ChatGPT, unless they've gone, here's all my personal information or something.
No, I don't think they've done that. Well, they might have. I don't know.
And
they're quite an intelligent person. So they may have fed it all their data. But
I think generally, the question about whether humans can be trusted, and people probably more naturally want to trust like the AI tools. Do you feel like that's a...
No, I don't naturally want to trust them.
No, I know you, but you get a bit of your own drum. I'm talking about like society as a whole, generally speaking. Do you think people are more likely to trust the tools than people?
Nah, wow, that's such a broad question.
That's been my experience.
I think for specific things, they probably trust it more than a human. But on average, I think people trust humans more than they trust AI.
Okay. Why is it a bad idea that they fix for 6 months?
Yeah, look, for this specific client, fixing for 6 months, definitely. Hey, you know what? Chat might be right. You know what I mean? But my advice was to fix for 2 years. Why was I picking 2 years over 6 months for this customer? Look, we know interest rates are on the way up. There are 2 OCR hikes fully priced in by the end of the year. They could fix for 6 months. My worry would be at the end of that 6 month period, they would be on much higher interest rates than they are now, even though the 6 month fix is lower than the 2 year fix. My advice was to take the 2 year fix, buy yourself that insurance, and ride out the kind of next 24 months of rate hikes, right? Because reasonably speaking, we know that interest rate cycles or the hiking cycles last somewhere like 12, 18 months. The last one was like a lot longer than they'd usually last. So on average, about 12, 18 months.
So where did you leave it with the client?
We went for 2 years. I did say, I was like, feel free to split it 50-50. We'll see who wins. Like you fix half on 6, half for 2. If I win, you owe me a bottle of wine. If you win, I owe you a bottle of wine and ChatGPT a bottle of wine. But they didn't. They fixed it 2 years.
Nice. That's good. So you won.
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. Time will tell. Like I might be looking back on this in 6 months being like, you're an idiot. Oh my God, you owe ChatGPT a bottle of wine.
You're just like not on the podcast in 6 months. It's just the laptop.
Yeah, but it is an interesting thing, right? Because like as people start to use ChatGPT over Google to ask questions and get like proper formulated answers, like I think we're going to be seeing this more and more.
Yeah. Well, speaking of seeing it, my superstar financial advisor, Jess, recently had a client hand her a full financial plan that was written by ChatGPT and asked for her thoughts on it. Instead of reading the plan, Jess was like, no, I'm not doing that thing. I'm just going to be doing like my own independent analysis before. And then after we go through the process, we can compare the two.
Did you compare them?
Yeah. So once she reviewed the AI generated plan afterwards, there were multiple recommendations and assumptions that were unsuitable or like missing important context. So I think the issue is that AI, it can do math. It can do calculations.
Probably better than me.
Mate, it can definitely spell an email better than you.
Yeah.
The issue is that it can't properly understand someone's goals, behavior, risk tolerance, future plans, ask the right follow-up questions, dig a little bit deeper. It's those bits that are missing.
It also just tells you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
So, like that's the issue is I don't know the way that my client asked about how they should fix. My worry is that, let's say it is really good at predicting interest rate cycles based on historical data and giving interest rate advice, right? My worry is the way that you ask the question. Let's say you give it some slight hint that you were thinking about 6 months, it will tell you to fix for 6 months, right? Because it just reinforces what you want to hear. And there's countless examples of that.
I agree. I think the if you go, yep, this is what I think, am I right? They go, of course you're right. And you're good looking as well, Mike. Let's move on though, Mike, because we don't have to keep talking about how good looking you are, although feel free to pop in the comment section.
Stop saying that because people
from time to time. Yeah. If you pop in the comment section, I'll DM you Mike's address. So I guess we're not sitting here saying like AI is useless. Like we use it in our business to work out what fixed rates we should do for our clients. No, I'm joking. But there's massive difference between using AI for admin tasks and efficiency versus relying on it for the personalized advice. Because the personalized advice, who knows where things will go and how good these tools will get. But right now, it doesn't take into account enough context and the person's situation to do a good enough job.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I can see why people want to pull it into these discussions because for me, it's about information asymmetry, right? And I talk about this when you're buying a house, right? The real estate agent has all the information and you have almost none, right? Because you don't buy a house every day. And AI and the way that it operates, like for a lot of people, helps to level that playing field, right? Like because you might not refix your mortgages every day. So you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I can go somewhere that is objective. I can ask it a question and I can get a response in plain English, right? And that is, helps to balance out that information asymmetry. So I can see why people do it. And that's why I think lawyers really need to be worried about AI. Because my real bugbear with lawyers is that there's information asymmetry. And a lot of the time, instead of playing it back to you in plain English, they just give it back to you in legal jargon. You're like, I get it. That's not what I'm here for, right? And that's why I think they need to be really worried about AI. But, in terms of kind of the information versus advice piece, I think you can get information from ChatGPT,
for sure,
from AI. Like you can ask it information questions. I would just be really hesitant around the advice piece.
Yeah, I agree. Scrape information, become more informed, and then, make your own. Probably that's the bit. If you want to get information to make your own decision, that's cool. But the tool shouldn't be making the decision for you, because it might make the wrong decision.
Yeah. I mean, and like advisors still get it wrong. We get it wrong all the time, right?
Especially you.
No, I never get it wrong. But it's just that I just don't think it's there yet. And so we were having a discussion the other day with a friend and a client of ours who works in the film industry. And we're out to lunch and we're talking about AI and how it operates in the film industry. And someone asked him the question was like, surely we're 5 years away from AI just creating entire cinematic quality movies and just running the whole thing end to end. And he was like, absolutely not. You are so far away from that. It's probably 10, 20 years away before it even gets close to being able to do that. And we were like, nah, surely not. That doesn't make any sense. And he raised a really good point. He turned around and he was like, it can't even properly write you an email without you editing it. And I was like, huh. And he was like, you have no idea how complex that stuff is, and you have no idea how far away it is from being able to do that. And I think that's the thing. People overestimate how useful these tools are or their ability right now, right? And I think that's where people go wrong with this stuff.
Yeah, there's the saying, you overestimate what will happen in the next 12 months, underestimate what will happen over the next decade. The thing I struggle with the whole where it'll be in 5 years versus 3 years versus 12 months is the exponential nature of the curve and where we are on the curve, which nobody will really know until hindsight. That's the bit where people make calls on going, if it got 100 times better or 1,000 times better and then it got 2 times better, I don't know, man. I just sit here, give opinions, tell my friend it looks good.
Yeah. And I'm not saying we're anti-AI. That's definitely not the case. I think there's a role for it in society and work.
You're an artsy guy though, and generally artsy guy. People.
But I think if you're trying to predict that far out into the future, and especially if you're trying to use it now, it really goes one or two ways, right? It either becomes so good, but so expensive that the businesses can't get their kind of efficiencies that they want out of it. And that's if there's one dominant player, right, that has the resource to reinvest and hits profitability. Or you kind of have the Uber model where you might have Uber, but in every market around the world, there's a couple more as well. They never quite get there. You get to enjoy cheaper rides, but the company never gets profitable, never really hits a scale point where it's like amazing at everything. So I think the market will bifurcate in one of those two ways.
Yeah, the concept of like these big businesses, like a lot of them are over their AI budgets for the year and usage, and like they gamify the whole thing about like how many tokens can you spend, and now everybody's going like, maybe that's a bad idea that we just like spend money for the sake of spending money. So the point particularly around the cost versus the return within these businesses is going to be quite interesting. Obviously got Anthropic and OpenAI is talking about listing as well. Going to be very interesting to see what multiples they come in at, and whether they can maintain their share price compared to the hype.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like, you know my thoughts on recent IPOs and valuations of companies, so we don't have to go down that path.
Cool. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Let us know, would you get financial advice from Chaz, or would you prefer to use Gemini and stuff? Or would you use a mortgage broker? Like, review, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.